This is the $1,000,000 question, if not multi-million-dollar question. Who are the best community people in the Web3 space right now?
Hi, I'm Carmen, the community coach, and I help people build and manage their communities from scratch. Let's go.
I was scrolling Twitter like I usually do, and I spotted this awesome tweet by Alex Mazmej. They posed this awesome question to the Web3 community. Who are the best community people in the Web3 space? I was reading through the responses and I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many names here. I wanted to actually go through some of these names and see, why are they considered the best Web3 community managers? What do they do that is so special? Why are they so adored to the point that somebody else has actually answered this question and tagged their community manager in? In this video, we'll take a look at what these awesome community managers have in common, what these community managers actually do that makes them awesome, and I'll add a few other names into this video of other community managers that are building epic Web3 communities. I decided to go one step further and create a document recording all these responses in a doc, because I've been a community manager for over 7 years. And to be honest, especially in the Web2 space, I spent a lot of time watching what other community managers did and getting inspired by them. I would actually take a lot of great ideas from them and how they were implementing certain strategies into their community. I highly recommend doing the same, to be honest. It's awesome to be inspired by others in the Web3 space, see how they're engaging their community, how they're onboarding their community members. Is there stuff that they're doing that you're not doing? And maybe you can actually use some of that stuff. I actually curated the list of all the awesome community managers that were mentioned in this thread, and I added it into a Google Sheet. I'm going to share that link openly with you guys so that you can go through. They're all linked to the profile so that you can take the time to go through them if you want. But if you don't necessarily have the time, I totally understand it. I'm actually going to go through some of the commonalities that I noticed when looking through some of these profiles. So let's start with the top 3 that I noticed. The first thing I noticed, they give without any expectation of anything in return. It's like the act of giving is enough for them, and if it adds value to others, then that is in effect the return. There's a lot of times I noticed that they're just constantly adding value to the people in the community, and there was just no ask. There was no, oh, come join our event. Oh, come and buy our NFT, or oh, come and actually support and host an event. None of that. It was like, hey, here are all the awesome resources. Take it if you need it, and just rinse and repeat that formula. Secondly, they were always super clear about their mission and what their greater goal was. And lastly, they were always helpful. They were always sharing resources. They were always tagging other people into threads or conversations. They were always trying to help others get whatever it was that they needed to get. Whether that was to get started or get a job, didn't matter, but they were just so helpful, constantly trying to provide that help wherever needed. So let's look at some specific examples of some of these Web3 community managers that were mentioned in this Twitter thread. So Ami.eth is the first community manager that I took a look at, otherwise known as @Amio was the top mentioned community manager in this Twitter thread. Amy's actually grown communities at Dropout DAO and Golden DAO, which I think is a work in progress. It didn't seem like that one had officially launched yet. When I took a look at Dropout DAO, there were definitely some really cool things that I noticed Amy was working on, and let's go through that. Straight off the bat, I noticed that Amy was constantly adding value to the Web3 space, working on really awesome stuff, and it's actually very human focused. So things like creating a co-living space, which you may think, oh, okay, well, that's not that scalable. But it's not about just building a community and broadcasting things to thousands of members. It's actually about bringing really high quality to even small groups of people. So I actually love the fact that Amy was working on these unique initiatives like the co-living space, offering something for people building top NFT projects at a conference. Somebody else tweeted exactly what Amy does. I think this really summarizes it. Amy builds community across all projects facilitates introductions. That's a really big deal. And again, adding value to others, relationship building between founders, investors, operators. So that's adding value again. So starting small, adding the value to those key players in the space, and then successfully scaling those efforts. And Amy had actually talked about, well, how do communities do this and what do they need to focus more on? And there was 4 key elements, which I definitely agree with. The onboarding process is incredibly important. Creating those one-to-one connections, actually listening to members, and sustainable growth. So don't keep thinking about how do I get from 1 to 1 million? It's not about that. It's about creating growth that's actually going to be healthy for your community. On top of that, I looked at some of the events that Amy runs and how they actually go about doing that. I noticed that Amy uses Partyful, and it's a really fun vibe around the events. If you look at the landing page for this, I mean, I love the fact that there's Dodge flying around. And if I looked at every single event page that Amy had created, they were all different. They all had different images. There was a lot of effort put into even these event landing pages. Set yourself apart from just creating another Eventbrite page, for instance. Partyful seems to be an awesome platform, and I'll definitely be checking that out myself. On Twitter, I noticed that Amy had attended many events, meets lots of people, just a natural networker, and that is definitely someone that I can see is very successful when it comes to managing communities. Amy shares a lot behind the scenes as to how hard the work of a community manager is, and the fact that Amy's not scared to put in the hard work. Check out Amy's calendar, and it says building the community from the ground up, and there's never been a more real photo of a calendar for a community manager. There's a lot of one-on-one meetings here, and again, take note as to how Amy is building community. You may not think it's scalable or that you have the time to meet with so many one-to-ones, but actually that is probably one of the best things you can do, especially at the beginning when you're building community. You can really solidify relationships. You can truly provide value to your community members, especially the initial ones that are starting out. Encourage them to become your super fans, in effect, in your community, and do that similar work for you. It is scalable. It takes hard work. It takes patience at the beginning, and it takes somebody that can truly listen to these people during these one-to-one chats and then actually go ahead and execute. Go ahead and deliver value based on these conversations that you're having. So I absolutely love that Amy had shared this tweet. Now, the Dropout DAO itself is a wait list currently, so I couldn't actually join the community myself. However, I did take a look at the landing page and as much as possible just to see what is going on behind the scenes. The Dropout DAO website straight up has a completely different vibe. It's really clean, it's very minimal, but it's already showing me a little bit of their personality. It's kind of fun. I like the moving GIF image. I also love how it literally tells you exactly what this community is, who it's for, and the call to action. The branding itself is very clear as well. I feel like I know exactly who this community is for. You can tell that the people that have set up the Twitter account, for instance, they're very much in the Web3 space themselves. There's a lot of subtle branding decisions where I can tell these people have been in Web3. Overall, I can see why Amy was mentioned so many times, and I highly recommend checking out their profile and work just to see whether you can actually adapt anything to your own project. And I'll leave a link to Amy's profile in the description below in case you want to check it out for yourself. Right, Patrick Collins is the next community manager that was mentioned. Patrick's actually a lead developer advocate for Chainlink and teaches people a ton about smart contracts and blockchain engineering. Just by looking at Patrick's profile on Twitter, I could tell that Patrick just delivers so much value to the Web3 community. Chainlink itself is not pushed a ton on his profile. And what I love about Patrick's profile is the broader mission. It's not like pushing a product or a service. It's actually about educating people on smart contracts and blockchain engineering. When I look through a lot of community managers' Twitter profiles, for instance, I noticed that there's always a lot of photos of them meeting with other people, tagging those people in, saying how great it was to meet them. You can tell that they're good at fostering relationships with people and networking. It also says a lot when other people are calling the community manager their friend. And again, just like Amy, Patrick delivers so much value to the Web3 community. Patrick gives so much free content out there. People believe in his mission and he just shares everything so openly. Look what he said about the free content that he shares and why he shares it. Again, the messaging is constantly around the bigger mission, and that just keeps getting driven home. He's not focused on the numbers game when it comes to building community. He's focused on bringing as much value as possible to the few, rather than trying to get as many people through the door. That's the way to build a high value and sustainable community.
Next up, I'm looking at Farza, who is the founder of Buildspace. Now, both Farza and Buildspace were mentioned a few times in this Twitter thread. Quick note on Buildspace. Buildspace is a place to onboard devs to Web3. They're big on helping their community of devs learn and build straight away. It's backed by VCs. Now, Farza and the Buildspace team have been really vocal on helping devs make the leap in their careers to Web3. They've now become the world's largest community of Web3 builders in just 5 months. Let's take a look at how they're doing this, what makes their community so special. I'm going to focus on Farza and the team and take a look at what they're doing in their Discord server to see how they've built such an engaged and awesome community. We'll say straight off the bat, I can tell that this community is all about execution. When I take a look at the Discord server, it's got very clear steps. What project do you want to join as a web dev? And get started. Let's get you upgraded to Web3. Delivering value to their community members as soon as they're through the door. All right, so I went ahead and actually clicked on one of the projects to get full access to the server. What I think is really cool first up is that every project means you get different channels in the server. So that is fully customized to the community members' experience. So I just want to highlight that first up. That's the way that they're going above and beyond for the community members' experience. I've then gone ahead and checked out Farza's activity on Discord to see, okay, well, what's going on there? Check out the wording that Farza uses in the community announcements. We consider all of you owners of Buildspace. We want you to see what we're planning and get your thoughts. This is really different to, okay, we're hosting a town hall and here's the event details. Love the good morning in ASCII art there, just again setting a really creative, cool mood. It's just a lot of activity and it's daily. There's good mornings, there is replies to people's comments and posts. I also want to point out that Farza isn't the official community manager of Buildspace. Farza is the founder, and seeing them so active in the community to me demonstrates the power of the founders. If you're building something from scratch, it is so vital, especially in the Web3 space, that you're in the Discord server every day. When I scroll through the announcements channel, I can see that there is constant updates. There are things that go wrong, but it's full transparency. So just keeping your community updated with what's going on, whether it's good news, it's bad news, watch the language that they use here. I think there's a lot of key takeaways if you are a community manager as to how to manage your community. It wasn't just Farza. I noticed that other members of the team were also constantly providing updates, and I saw that they were giving updates from the Buildspace team. It wasn't just updates from a very technical perspective. There was emotions involved. You know, we're really hyped for how things are going in the community. We're really excited about the progress that we're seeing. So keep that in mind. What are your emotions, and are you sharing these emotions that your team are experiencing with your community?
Rahat.eth was another person mentioned in this thread. Rahat has one of my favorite Twitter banners, which really tells me what they stand for. Values are really important when building a community. So if you are a community builder, make it clear what the values of your community are and broadcast that. So with Rahat's profile, I can see that mental health is very, very important to them. And it's not just in the Twitter banner, which, by the way, I think is super creative. And I'm kind of thinking I should do something like that myself in my own Twitter banner. But in the posts as well, in the content that Rahat is sharing, I can see how important it is to them. And that is how you do build community. You're encouraging people with the same values to come together. Now, there are a ton of other Web3 community managers, of course, and I know that I'm not going to be able to cover all the amazing Web3 community managers out there. I'm really going through this list and taking a look at some of the key attributes. There were a few more that I just know from being in the Web3 space that I think should be shouted out that weren't on that list. The first being Tom Osman, who is actually more of a community creator or founder. Tom founded the Shiny Object Social Club. I'm a member of that community. I think it's really well done. There's a lot of great value that is being added to the community. So feel free to check out Tom's Twitter profile, Tom's website. There's a lot of great value content there that you can see what Tom's doing to build such a powerful community there. Josh Ong, I heard, was the community manager for Bored Ape Yacht Club. Unfortunately, I don't have a Bored Ape and I'm still crying about that, but that's okay. Josh has been incredibly active in the Web3 space, so I do highly recommend checking out Josh's Twitter and seeing how they're adding value to the space. But in terms of Bored Ape Yacht Club and the value that they've been providing to their community members, that goes without saying. I feel like I needed a whole separate video based on how they're doing that. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see that video. Now, the other two people that I want to shout out in the Web3 community space that I think are doing a really great job is All Nick, otherwise known as NFT Nick, and Pio.eth. These guys work hard, and I see that they host Twitter spaces every single day. They're incredibly active. Now, you may think that just providing value to people is through very boring means like, oh, I'm going to create more resources, or I'm going to create this PDF guide, or I'm going to curate resources, or I'm going to introduce people to each other. Well, what I love about NFT Nick and Pio is they actually also entertain. And that's a really big thing. I listen to their Twitter spaces and I'm laughing. They're so funny. And I think that is something that you should not forget is, are you entertaining your key community members, and are they having fun being part of that community? It's not a necessity. Not all communities are there to provide fun for their members, but I think they're just taking a different spin on how they're providing value to their members. Yes, they still provide alpha, but I would say that a lot of people just really enjoy listening and taking part of the community because they just enjoy the company of the people in that community. So take a look at those guys. They're doing a really great job. Now, like I said, I can't cover absolutely everybody in this space. If there's people that you think I should definitely know about that are in the Web3 community space, they're doing amazing things, managing their community. Maybe you're a part of their community and you just think they're the best community manager ever. Please comment below. I want to hear about them. Maybe I'll make a part 2 of this if there are enough people that tell me that there is awesome community managers that I should know about. I hope you've enjoyed the alpha that I've dropped in this video around building community. There is a lot that you can learn from the people in this space. I don't recommend that you copy these people and do exactly what they do. I want you to take inspiration from them. I want you to take what they're doing and think, how can I apply that to my community in a way that really is incredibly awesome to the community members? It should have your unique spin on it. It should have your unique branding and your unique mission. What are you trying to achieve with your community? Make that happen, but do it your way. All right, I hope you found this video helpful. Thank you so much again for watching and for subscribing. I really appreciate your support. If you're building community, you're gonna make it. Bye for now.